Okay, boys and girls, y'all made me do it. Because y'all have been struggling a little bit with the subject areas of or the skill areas that we're going over, perimeter and area, I decided to do another video. And I haven't done one of these in a long time, and it's not because I haven't wanted to, but changing grade levels is a little bit of a challenge, and has taken me some time to kind of wrap my head around the content and know how to teach it and teach it well so you would learn it. But I still see some struggles with perimeter and area, and to me, it seems like an easy concept, but maybe to you guys, it's a little more challenging. I know you had it in third grade, so let's go back to the basics and start with some videos again. And we'll just do hopefully you can do some review, go over this again, visit the websites. Please go on Google Classroom and do the websites where they change between like the Fruit Shoot one and the one on Math Playground, where you can go from perimeter to area. And of course, we're going to be adding in volume, but you need to know how to change gears very quickly. Know that they don't put the items on the test in pockets according to subject area. So you're going to have to be able to switch gears. It's like with that computation piece, you got to be able to add and subtract and multiply and divide, and then they're going to add in some decimals and some rounding and some fractions. And I know it's a lot for it to all come at you one time, but that's exactly how it's going to be when you're tested on it. And remember, we have to practice well, sorry, so that we'll play well. So that if you see a lot of different concepts coming at you, it's because they're all going to be mixed up in there together. And you have to really have each concept down solidly enough so that when we change from one concept to another, that you can change gears and know, wait, this is area and that's perimeter, and coming up, that's volume. So make sure you study them and visit some of those websites and play those games so that you really have to think on the fly. Which one is this one talking about? Which um, skill is this question going over? Okay, so we're going to start, and you can make your positive statement to yourself so that you know that you are smart, that you have hope and a bright future, and it's going to get better, and we're going to be able to master perimeter, area, and volume. It'll be okay. So please revisit this video and the websites as well. And I am going to include a little joke in there. So, what is a math teacher's favorite comfort food? I know we're a few days off from this celebration, but I'm going to just continue getting all I can from it. And I like this one, so I hope you'll like it too. That's all right. If you don't laugh, I'll show it to Miss McKinney. She'll laugh at my jokes. A math teacher's favorite comfort food is chicken pot pie. Check it out, the chicken in the pot with the pie sign on it. I know, super corny, but hopefully you've laughed, and so your dendrites are growing, and you've opened your mind up to be ready to think about math now. We're going to just reset that page. Whoops, sorry, didn't make the chicken go away. Let's go on to the next one. So this is SOL 5.8 and 5.9, and it is measurement. Again, we haven't seen these concepts since third grade, but they've decided to add them to your fourth grade curriculum. So we are going to go over area and perimeter. This video is just perimeter, so you'll have to come back for the area one. I didn't want to make it too long. So this is just the concept of perimeter. But looking at the SOLs, remember you're going to solve those practical problems, differentiate among perimeter, area, and volume, identify which concept is being applied there, and then we go on to equivalent measures, and again, solving practical problems. Is it important to have a standard way of doing something? Yes, that's why you have to learn the formulas, because even for perimeter and area and volume, there is a standard way of calculating it. So you have to know those formulas. Sometimes there will be a non-standard way where you're just counting boxes. That's kind of the non-standard way to calculate area and perimeter, because we're just counting. We don't even sometimes know what unit, so we just say units. But there is a formula and a standard way, and that's important so that you get the same answer as your neighbor has. And then do you know which tools they're asking you to use? Just like with our angles, are they wanting you to use the protractor? Are they wanting you to measure? Are they wanting you to use the equation? Make sure you know what it is by looking at the problem that they're asking you to do. There's our learning intention. We're going to be able to determine the area, the perimeter, or the volume with or without diagrams. Remember, they won't always show you a picture. Sometimes it's going to be in word form. And you'll know you've got it when you can find the area, the perimeter, the volume, using pictures and formulas in a given situation. You're going to be able to identify whether the application of the concept of perimeter, area, or volume is appropriate for the given situation. And then you'll know you've got it when you can make a decision regarding the use of the appropriate concept after reading a statement. So again, know that math is not just about the computation, the math part of it, solving things with numbers. It is also about reading, and you must read carefully because, as we've seen before, that's where a lot of you get caught up. You don't read carefully, and then they catch you. Do I think it's fair that they do it that way and that the test is set up that way? Absolutely not. But knowing what's coming is half the battle. And if we know that they're going to try and trick us, then we're going to just read carefully so that we don't get tricked by questions. These are the two concepts we've been covering this week and last week. Perimeter, remember that's the distance around the figure, and that's why they show you that word perimeter going all the way around. We talked about perimeter being things like putting a fence around something, putting a frame around a picture. Jaden in my homeroom called it an enclosure, putting an enclosure. So remember, it's going around the object, and you would be able to measure it with a ruler, linear. It's the distance around the figure, and remember, we're looking at 2D figures there. So we're looking at the distance around. And then area, which we're going to talk about later, is the number of units that will cover that flat surface. So be careful that you're thinking about 2D shapes, two dimensions, when you're talking about these. And that's why we say length times width. Those are our two dimensions. Or the other thing is base times height when we're looking at area. And perimeter is a little bit different, but again, think 2D when you think perimeter and area. It may help you to think of the rim around the basketball hoop there. That's we have March Madness going on, so think of the rim around it, around the outside, and then the rim around the glass or a cup. The rim in the middle of the word perimeter may help you to remember that it's all the way around. And again, some of my friends today, you are only walking halfway around. We don't want it halfway. We don't need a halfway fence. Remember, the animals will still get out. Like the little dog on the vocabulary video, he will run away if you only give him half a fence. You need to go all the way around the shape. Remember that it can be shown to you two different ways. These are two examples of how you might see a problem about perimeter. This model here looks similar to what we used when we did our book, Spaghetti and Meatballs for Everyone. When they set up the tables, they were trying to see how many chairs go around the table. So when you're finding perimeter on a model like this, remember that you want to do little marks on here. You're thinking of pushing chairs up to the table in each of these sections. We're really measuring this here, 1, 2, 3, but so that you can see the break between the lines, it's easier to just go around. And then we would count around. Make sure you start in one area and keep on going all the way around to measure the perimeter. Now, if they give it to you in a model that looks like, and we'll get rid of these, the one over here, then they've only given us two measurements, but again, the perimeter is all the way around the rim. So we're not just doing the 3 and the 5 side that we see listed. We have to go all the way around. And here's where your other knowledge of math and geometry comes in. Remember, we said that one concept builds on the next, builds on the next. Well, we started out with shapes, and we know that according to what we know about quadrilaterals, and this one being a rectangle, that if you have 5 yards over here, that this would also be 5 yards over here. And if this side measures 3 yards over here, then this side also measures 3 yards because the opposite sides are congruent to one another on a rectangle. So even though they don't write them, there's that little trick that they try. You already know that a rectangular shape has opposite sides that are congruent. Opposite sides are equal to one another. So even though they don't write them, you know that those um, measurements are there, and you have to add up all the measurements. Just like we counted each one of the sides around this figure, we have to count each of the measurements for the sides around this figure. So 5 plus 3 is 8, and then we would add 5 more, which makes 13, and then 3 more would be 16. And if you want to check it, you can add it a different way. I suggest that you check it off or put some kind of mark on it as you add it. This would be easy. 2 5s make 10, 2 3s make 6, and then your 10 plus your 6 will give you, again, 16. So you know you added it correctly, okay? And it's actually 16 yards. Remember, we talked about this when we talked about buying that molding for our classroom. If we wanted to redecorate our classroom, we would buy that molding to go around the outside of it. And we would add all our measurements together. And we could just buy 16 yards and then cut them into those pieces. So it's linear, it's straight. We measured that with a ruler because, again, it's a 2D shape. Now, these are some really easy examples that we see here because they've already given us all the measurements. And you also need to remember that when you get these questions, whoops, it's not cooperating with me. Let's see if it'll let me. Yay. That on this part of the test, they're not looking to see whether or not you can add or subtract, multiply or divide. It's not testing your computation skills. There will be sections on the test that will test your computation skills, and you're going to have to be able to do all those things: add, subtract, multiply, divide, with decimals, with fractions. But this one is trying to see, because they're not going to tell you, they're going to say find the perimeter, and then you have to know what the formula is. What is perimeter? They want to know, do you know the definition? Do you know the formula that goes with that definition? It's about application. And so they give you the calculator to use to take out that piece where you're actually adding or subtracting. I know your parents want you to be whizzes at adding and subtracting. They don't want you to rely on the calculator. But if you use the calculator for nothing else, use it to check it, because it is a tool. And whether or not you have that calculator, the calculator is not going to give you the correct answer. You have to know which numbers to put in. You have to know what sequence to put them in. You have to know which operation to use. But please, by all means, use it to check it if you don't do anything else. So we're only going to find the perimeter of one or two of these. But if we do this one right here, we start with the 8. Again, mark it off as you actually calculate it. And then plus 3. And our calculator works a little bit different than this one, but this one actually holds it on the screen. So that would be 11 already, plus 8. Mark it off. And that's 19, plus another 3. Mark it off. And that equals 22. So our perimeter on this shape right here, remember we're measuring all the way around the shape, is 22. Do I trust my first answer? Nope, because I could have put them in wrong. I might have transposed some numbers. We always check our question more than one time. So let's start with the 8s first and see if we get the same answer. 8 plus 8, cross those out, equals 16 plus 3. Again, cross that out, and then plus 3 more. There we go. We get the same answer twice. There's a good chance that we have it correct, but always check it. And I'm going to make this guy disappear now because we're going to go to the next page. Really quickly while we're here, remember that another trick that they love to do besides getting rid of some of those answers on a rectangle is to do this. Sometimes just have 2 on a square or even 1 measurement on a square. Again, they're testing your application and they're testing your extended knowledge of geometry. What do you know about a square? Well, we know a square has 4 congruent sides. So we know if they give us this one measurement of 6 inches, that the rest of these are going to be 6 inches. And in order to get the perimeter, which is all the way around the shape, we're going to do 6 plus 6 plus 6 plus 6. Or, and I hate to say this, but this is a possibility if you wanted to do 6 times 4. Be very careful. Know that we're still measuring the perimeter. So we're still measuring around the rim. But we're using multiplication only because it's repeated addition. We're adding that 6 4 times. So it's just an easier way to do that. And I'm going to clean this up really quickly before we go on to the next page. And I didn't move those squares to reveal the answers because there's a little technical difficulty with that page. It keeps quitting out on me. So to keep the flip chart from closing out, we just got to stay there. Now, remember, sometimes there's going to be these boxes around here. This one doesn't have it drawn in. I never want you to draw it in. They're either going to give you the numbers on the side, which if you see it covers 3 boxes. They're either going to give you the numbers or they're going to have the lines already drawn to show them to you, but you're never going to have to fill those in. So we won't be drawing any lines. Oops, come back to me. So let's take a look at this one again. We've seen this in class. This is Miss Splash, Swimming Splash, sorry. And she loves her new pool, but she needs a fence. Remember what a fence? A fence goes around the outside. We don't put that fence down in the pool. That would be terrible. And we just can't put it on one side. If we want to keep the babies safe and keep them out of the pool, we got to put that fence all the way around so they can't get in. They've only given us 2 measurements, but again, it's a rectangle, so we know this measure over here is going to be 20 feet, and this measure over here is going to be 12 feet, and we will add them all the way around. I'll give you a minute to do that. Remember, you can use your calculator, and we want to find out what answer we get. If we add these 2 sides here, 20 plus 20, and that's the easiest thing to do is for us to put like numbers together. That's going to give us 40. Just get rid of these guys right here because we already used them. And then we could actually put together our 12 plus 12. And for some of you who already know what 12 2 times is, you're going to know that this is 24. And then we're going to have to add them together because that's all sides. Sorry, I'll put it up here. 40. Look how easy that is. Plus 24 is 64. 20 plus 20 is 40. And 12 plus 12 is 24. And 40 plus 24 is 64. Always go back and check. Double check, make sure you're right. Next, remember sometimes, again, I wish they had the lines on here, but you're not going to draw them. I'm just going to draw them in really quickly to show you. When we find the perimeter on a shape like this, we go around the outside as if we're putting chairs at each section on the table. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way around. And this would be 3 and 3, which is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, and don't forget when there are shapes like this, where you have like these little inside cutouts here, you have to remember to go around. Choose one spot to start on and go all the way around the figure. Perim, all the way around the rim. Okay, so let's check this out. This is when some students get a little confused when we go back because it looks like a different model. But they're asking you to find the perimeter. Don't forget to annotate. And also remember that it could just say, what is the perimeter of a rectangle? 8 centimeters by 3 centimeters. They don't have to have the picture here. It said with or without the diagram. So be careful that you don't get so used to seeing a picture that you automatically assume a picture is going to be there, because they don't have to give it to you. And you'll have to still know how to calculate the perimeter. And you may see two numbers and get fooled and think that they're doing something else, but if they use the word perimeter, they're going around the rim. And here we have, again, a rectangle. So this is 8 centimeters. This would be another 8. This would be another 3. Add them up. 8, 9, 10, 11. And 8 and 3 is 11. And 11, 11 is 22. So that will be your answer right there. Let's try another one. Suddenly there's a triangle. Triangles have been giving us a fit. But again, this is asking for the perimeter of the triangle. So be careful. We're going around the outside. We don't have to do anything else to it. We're just adding it up. Remember, perimeter equals side plus side plus side. In this case, because there's only 3, it would be 4 sides if it were a quadrilateral. So 5 plus 5 gives us 10. And then plus the 7 gives us 17. That's it. Letter A is your answer for that one. Be careful that you look carefully at your vocabulary, that you annotate, and you think about perimeter. Remember, we took our hand and drew around the outside when we did perimeter. Let's try this one. Again, tricky, but easy, because we know how to do it. The perimeter of a square. They give us one side, which is 4, so we know everything else is going to be 4, because it's a square. All sides are congruent. 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus 4 is 12, plus another 4 gives us 16, or 4 times 4, only because we have the 4 times, so it's just repeated addition, and we know repeated addition is the same thing as multiplication, so don't get confused about what you're finding, even if you multiply. It tells us it's a pentagon. Again, testing your knowledge of geometry. You know a pentagon has 5 sides. If this picture wasn't here, you should know that there are 5 sides on this guy. Go around. We could either do 3 times 5 because we have 5 sides measuring 3 centimeters each, or we could just add it up. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus another 3 is 9, plus another 3 is 12, plus one more 3 makes 15. Again, a triangle again. But now look at this. They've left off one side, and then people get confused as to what they're finding, but it's asked for the perimeter. And look at what knowledge they're using. You know, if those 2 sides are 4, what kind of a triangle do you have here? Remember, it's just building. All of those concepts that we've covered are relevant. They all come into play. So this is a fair question, ladies and gentlemen. So you have to not just know the one concept that we're covering that week. You got to bring back all of those things from the weeks before. Well, if you remembered, a couple of weeks ago we talked about triangles. This is an equilateral triangle. So that means this measure over here is going to be 4 centimeters. They don't have to give it to you because you should already know it. Looking at it, you see that the sides are congruent. So again, adding it, 4 plus 4 is 8. Plus another 4 makes 12. So our perimeter of that triangle would be 12. And never hesitate to go ahead and show your work and work it out. I'm just doing it a little shorter. And I know, shame on me, because oops, look at that. I always tell y'all that you need to practice the way you're going to play. 8 plus another 4 equals 12. So don't be afraid to show your work. Again, you'll have that calculator to either just do the work or check it, but never hesitate again to write out your work, because the calculator is only good as the person who's touching the buttons, because people with calculators can get things wrong too. And then remember that it might not be isolated to just one shape. they can throw you a multi-step problem that looks like this. What is the perimeter of rectangle S? And then the perimeter of rectangle S is how many centimeters smaller than, there's our comparison, comparative words, the perimeter of rectangle R. So we're comparing the two. We know comparisons are made by subtracting. We have to find the perimeter, and look, they've done lots of things to us here. They left off the two side measurements here. So it's multi-step. First we would have to find the perimeter of this guy. 8 and 6 is 14 plus another 14, so that we've gone all the way around. We've gotten our 8 and our 6, and then the other 6 and the other 8. So it's 28. And then this one, 4 and 6 is 10, plus another 4 if we want to do it that way, is 14, and 14 plus another 6. Remember, I don't like for you to combine them because then you all forget when it comes to regrouping. Is 20. Alrighty, so what do we do with it? So S is 20, the perimeter of S is 20, the perimeter of R is 28, and again, they want to know how much smaller than. It's a comparison. What do we do to compare two numbers? We, math ninjas, we subtract. We subtract them. So 28 minus 20 equals 8. And there's our answer right there. Alrighty, that is all, I believe, that I have for you this time, because we're going to go next time and talk about area, and those were our area notes peeking at us. I'm sorry, I should have known that that was there. But this is just perimeter. That's all we were looking at. Going back really quickly, perimeter is around the outside of a 2D figure. There's around the rim. Think about the rim of a basketball hoop or the rim of a glass or a cup. And two ways we can see it would be with the boxes, and then we just think of chairs at a table, counting around each one. Or here, and of course you have to go all the way around. I'm just trying to save time but shame on Miss Mutana, I need to go all the way around the figure. Or they would give us the measurements around the figure, still going all the way around. Don't forget that sometimes they might not include all the measurements, but your knowledge of geometry should help you to remember the missing measures. So that's perimeter in a nutshell, ladies and gentlemen. Visit the websites that are posted in Google Classroom. I had the Math Playground, and there are a few others. The Fruit Shoot one is especially good because it makes you jump back and forth between area and perimeter, which is our next topic again, because you are going to have to be able to do that in your questions. And study and know your formulas. So perimeter equals side plus side plus side. Depending on how many sides you have to add up all of the sides. On here it would be 4 sides that you're adding on a triangle, 3 on a pentagon, 5, however many sides, but you're adding all the sides to find out the distance around the figure, and think 2D. And I will see you in class, ladies and gentlemen.